So, I just got done watching another video about the economy where people are posting their job situation, being laid off, how they're going to live, their worries and whatnot. And I read a comment that really disturbed me. Backstory is my father got chaptered out of the army back in the day and during the Vietnam area, kind of. And it was a negative discharge, dishonorable, right? He didn't know how to act. He basically had an attitude. And from my understanding, is he hit his NCO. He spent years trying to get that overturned, eventually did. But the important part is he was able to walk into a mill, even on a dishonorable discharge with no high school diploma, and be able to get a job and be able to work 50, 60 hours a month, a week, I mean, right? And that overtime helped him pay for stuff. And he had no empathy for other people who couldn't find jobs, who couldn't, afford bills. He always looked down on the homeless. Well, eventually he got an accident where something happened to his eye. He had to have surgery. He had to have his leg replaced because of another accident at that steel mill. And so he was the type of guy that had to have a big house. He had to have a big boat. He had to have a vacation like A-frame way up north, right, whatnot. But he never really had time to enjoy it because of all the overtime. So it was a waste of money, in my opinion, even growing up. Me and him were always at odds and ends. I spent years of abuse by him. But he had the same philosophy a lot of people in his generation did. So back in maybe 2012, I think, somewhere around there. The year is not so much important, but there was an old guy talking to a cashier at Dollar General, and he says he doesn't understand his younger generation, even my generation for that matter, because if he needed a job, he'd just go around knocking at people's doors to ask if they can clean gutters. And my thing is, if you can do that and you need money and you're still searching for a job, yeah, that's great. I mean, go for it. I'm not going to stop you, but the chances are you being able to make a living off that, and that's not going to happen. Now, if you can, that's freaking awesome. Again, I'm not going to stop you from doing that. I know a lot of people need money. That's one option, right? But the problem is there's less and less people going to pay for that now. And what this generation doesn't understand what's happening is now is the door that you're knocking on, nobody lives there anymore because the person that did live there, well, now they're homeless. Okay? So what's happening now in our society is this inability to understand what somebody else is going through. And because it never happened to us personally, they don't understand how it can happen to them. They feel like I have all the answers. I am the person, the set standard in life, right? It's just ridiculous. And so I heard another person in the comment section said, well, back in the 80s, some of our jobs got replaced by robots, right? They were talking about AI replacing everybody. Well, the comparison is not quite the same because there was a few jobs back then, was still hundreds, but it was way too many. Now we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people jobs losing the eye. Well, this economy now is not like the 2008 housing crisis because there was one set of problems that caused that. What's going now is multiple sets of problems, right? Why people are losing their jobs. And even the grocery stores are closing. We got warehouses closing. We got IT closing. We got truckers losing their job. I mean, it's just across the board. The one's because of terrorists, part of the problem with the grocery stores. We have AI replacing some jobs. We have greed really across the board is replacing a lot of these jobs. And people don't understand a lot of things. So his advice was the same advice that his dad gave him was learn a trade. Well, that's great. I personally would tell people learn a trade, right? Because even a trade might pay more than college does. If you go to college, chances are you getting a job now is very slim. But you're going to have a lot of math. If you're really good at math, you have a better chance of getting a job because math will pay for a better way, right? For the better kind of degrees for a higher income, okay? Now, I'm not telling anybody they shouldn't get a trade. What I'm trying to tell you now is when you have a trade job, somebody has to pay you. What I'm trying to tell you is that person that pays you is no longer existing. And my generation is going to have to start calling out the older generation just as much as we do the younger generation, accusing them of being lazy. And maybe they are, some of them ain't. And maybe it's a misrepresentation on our part too. Maybe we should be getting chewed out. But the point I'm trying to make is the situations and circumstances, the older generation, how they were able to do it, is not the same for us, right? Even if you go back and you value the housing market compared to their income, ours is exponentially bigger. We have a bigger problem, right? So we have a problem in our economy now where a lot of people are having to live in tents. They're having to work two jobs. And some people say, well, if you're homeless, you must be because you're mental. You must be because you have a drug problem. It just isn't the case, right? Now, my dad also had a couple of brothers, and they called him every time they got in trouble with something. And they weren't, my family wasn't criminals growing up. They were abusive, but they weren't criminals, kind of in that aspect. And so, because they had brothers, they were able to call each other for help, right? Well, nowadays, a lot of people don't have a brother, they don't have a sister, they don't have that kind of family they could call for help. It's just not there. They don't have that kind of friendship. Like my generation, even we grew up outside and we went out and played. We went out and rode our bikes. I didn't want to go home. A lot of it because I was being abused. You had to drag me to come home, right? So, you know, the generation growing on now, when you find a lot of people living in tents, they don't have the luxury of friends. They don't have the luxury of family. There's just no support system from there. And so what they're doing is they're posting videos online. And when other people see it, like the older generation, they think they're just crying. They just don't know. No, what they're doing is that they have a problem in life. They're at the lowest point, and they're posting because they don't know what else to do. And they're just telling their story because they want to feel important in life. They still want to feel important because when you're homeless, you're either living out of a tent, your job's struggling, you can't make it, you don't feel like you matter, right? And so when an older generation looks down at somebody else and says, oh, you guys are just a bunch of whiny babies. No, it's not the case. Not the case. It's not that people are whining. It's just that they need some kind of support because right now they feel like they're being abandoned by life itself. In the Bible, they said the end of the days, people's hearts will grow cold. And the older generation is too stupid to realize they're the ones being talked to, right? Even the younger generation who don't have a heart and some of the stuff that they do, the Bible's talking about them too. And even my generation. So it's not that they're whining. It's not that they're a bunch of sissies or babies or they need to go out and get a job. A lot of them have jobs still. Sorry. A lot of them have jobs still today. But their job doesn't pay their rent. They're trying to find better jobs. So some of you that wore MAGA hats, I've seen you in videos say, well, you need to go out and get a better paying job. Don't you think they're trying to, numbnuts? What better paying job? Let me guess, because you got that job, you think anybody could do it, right? Because you are the sense standard in life, because you think you can do it, anybody can. Is that it? Now, it's not an easy decision to go homeless because it's really not a decision to begin with. It's not a choice. Some of these people had good jobs, but they were searching for months trying to find a new one. Something changed. You know, like I said, I mentioned all the other reasons why people are losing jobs, right? And so it's not easy in life. And so when you got nowhere else to go, what do? You post. You say, hey, man, this is going on in my life. I don't know what to do. I could use some advice. It's not that so much that they're crying or whining or they want sympathy. It's just that they want to feel important because they don't have that brother system no more. They can't walk into a factory like you could 1970s, early 80s. It just doesn't exist no more. Even knocking on people's doors now saying, hey, you got anything that needs cleaning? Can I do your yard work? Can I mow your grass? Well, you risk being shot now. There's too many times you turn on the news, kids are doing that. And some idiot just starts blasting through the damn door. It's not even safe to knock on people's doors now. But in your mind, that's what you do. So now here goes back to the other part of the comment, right? Well, get a trade. Do something that some job or robots can't replace. Yeah, that's what a lot of people want to do. It's what a lot of people in IT want to do. You got to remember, a lot of people went to IT because they say, hey, you know what? Want a good money? Learn to code. Man, you got to learn to code because there's so many jobs that are hiring for that now. Well, the problem is they coded themselves out of a job. So here's how a trade works, right? So say you're an HVAC technician. You get a call at somebody's house saying, hey, my air conditioner's broke. My heater's broke. Can you come out and go look at it? And you're like, sure, I'll come out. We'll send somebody out there. Well, the problem is now nobody's making that call. You want to know why? Because the person that made that call is now homeless. Well, who's paying you? See, people don't understand how the economy works. People don't understand how circulation works. I made a video about that before, right? So if you work at a factory and you're a CEO and you lay everybody off because you want to make more money, you want to give yourself a big bonus, you want to give the other people that work in your corporate a big bonus, or maybe you just want to give yourself a big bonus and lay off the corporate too, right? Well, Here's the thing. The factory next to you and the business next to them are doing the same thing. Now because we have another problem with the economy, the ICE raids, right? So migrants are afraid to go outside no more, and they're not showing up to these job construction sites. They're not showing up to the farmland. So now farms are going on pit. The price of groceries are going up. Because the price of groceries is going up, nobody can afford groceries. So they got grocery stores being closed thanks to these ICE raids. Now Trump found money to give another country money, and you Republicans used to say, "Why are we giving money to Ukraine?" Well, where's your anger now? Some of you might be angry, but not enough like you were before. And Biden did something like that, right? The hypocrisy of everything. So now, because migrants ain't doing the farm and ain't doing any construction, schools ain't being built, houses ain't being built, and because that's not being built and things are slowing down, guess what? Truckers are also slowing down, because now the grocery store doesn't have as many orders. The farm doesn't have many orders, so there's nothing to ship between them, because that money that's circulating, because it turns out that migrants spent more money to the economy than any other group, right? So now, thanks to ICE, they killed off a lot of jobs and trying to enrich themselves. That's what ICE is. It's basically, ICE is just like, hey, I need to get paid. Screw America over, right? So nobody thought that through. Trump didn't think that through. Kristi Noem didn't think that through. MAGA didn't think that through. So now the rest of us are being screwed because of MAGA's idiocracy. So now we've gone over how those jobs are placed. We talk about AI replacing all these jobs. We talked about why truckers are losing their jobs, why shipments losing their jobs, why ports are losing their jobs. We talk about farmers are losing their farmland. So we go back to that one comment, well, just get a job at a trade. I'm not going to stop you from doing that. I think that's wonderful. I know some people now that have trades, and sometimes they're home 2 days a week now. You'd be lucky to get a contract job as a trade person where you can get that steady paycheck no matter what, but eventually that would end. Unfortunately, it's kind of true, because who's going to, like I said, who's going to pay you when a person paying you no longer has money? So it goes back to that first factory that lays off. So if you're laying off, the factory next to you lays off, the IT building next to you lays off, and the grocery store lays off, and the small businesses are no longer getting people, who is going to pay that HVAC? Who's going to pay that electrician? Who's going to pay that carpenter, right? So that job is not safe either. So compared to the 2008 crisis, I was able to get a job, but I'm not the comparison. Maybe I got lucky. But that crash happened for different reasons, and smaller reasons to the multiple reasons that are going on now. We have a multiple attack on our economy going on now, right? Thanks to MAGA and their brainless idiocracy that they caused. So now we have a housing crisis. We have a job crisis. People are having to live out of tents. Some people are posting living out of storage, which is I always thought was hard to do, because storage usually checks. Okay, what not? But if you can do it, I'm not going to mock you for it, right? But I'm also smart enough to know that everybody homeless does drugs and everybody homeless is mental. But I do know the longer you are homeless, the more it affects your mentality. And the best way to fix that mentality, to try to keep yourself sane, is to post. Because you're talking about your problem the same way you would go to therapy. So for you older generations that look down people and say, hey, you're whining. Hey, you're just a big crybaby. No, it's just that you don't understand. You don't have the brain power to understand. Mostly because your generation didn't even get a high school diploma. Right? So I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. Your lack of empathy, the Bible mentions, it's a problem. I get it. But until we fix the housing crisis, till we fix the economy, till we get Trump out of office and get somebody in office that actually wants to bring jobs back to America, whether it's blue or not, and some of you MAGA supporters are going to have to understand that you're going to have to get off your high horse and actually start putting America first instead of wearing a hat that says America first. Because the only way you make America great again is by bringing these jobs back, by actually, I hate to say it, some of you get mad, but you're going to have to start taxing the rich, because these filthy people that are rich, well, they don't care about you. To them, they don't get taxed enough. They're happy. They were happy about the big, beautiful bill because they got taxed less. And even in Trump's first term, when he says he's cutting taxes for rich, everybody's like, oh, it's going to cause more jobs because they're going to take that extra money. In fact, no, they didn't. They gave them extra payouts. CEOs, the corporate, the people that, that bank with them. But nobody got extra money for those tax bailouts for the rich. No extra jobs were created. And so until we have strong regulations for these CEOs, till we have strong regulations that regulate how much AI can actually take away jobs and start digging these corporates' ass, we're going to have a continued problem in America. And the biggest problem is not understanding what the problem is to begin with, either through a lack of empathy or stupidity. America has a problem right now, man. So I'm going to post at the end of this video the two pics that I took at a screenshot, because I want you to read it. And I want you to read part of the problem that's going on now, right? And I want you to know that not everybody thinks that if you lose a job, you're whining. Not everybody thinks that, I'm not going to go over all that again. Just know that everybody out there is a dumb American. So if you don't live in America and you're watching what's happening, you're watching what is happening, understand that we're all not like it. Some of us have a little bit better understanding. Some of us have a little more empathy. And some of us actually want America to be great again. And some of us don't need to wear a hat to make that effort. So I wish you all good mental health. And I wish everybody a good job that could pay the bills. And I wish everybody had a home, man. I really do. So let's keep in there. Let's keep trucking forward. Let's try to fix things.